The gardener of quiet thoughts. Ilara lived her life by the loud ringing of a bell. The morning alarm bell, the bell on her phone announcing another meeting, the ding of the elevator in her tall office building. Her days were full of noise and hurry. She was successful, with a clean apartment that looked over the bright lights of the city and a job that many people wanted. But inside, Ilara felt a strange quietness, an empty room where joy was supposed to live. She ate salads at her desk, her eyes on the computer screen. She ran on a machine at the gym, her ears filled with podcasts about being more productive. She was always moving, always doing, but she was not going anywhere that mattered. The feeling was like a small stone in her shoe. At first it was easy to ignore, but slowly it made every step feel wrong. One Tuesday the stone became too big to ignore. Ilara was giving an important presentation. The room was full of serious faces. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The noise in her head was louder than any city sound. It was a storm of thoughts. You are not good enough. You will fail. They will all see you are a fake. Her heart started to beat like a drum, fast and loud. She could not breathe. She mumbled an excuse and ran out of the room, her cheeks red with shame. That afternoon she did not go back to work. She walked without a destination until she found herself in a part of the city she did not know. It was a quiet street with small houses and green gardens. On this street there was no loud ringing, only the soft sound of the wind in the trees. She saw a small sign that said, Oak Bridge Community Garden. Without thinking she opened the gate and walked in. The garden was a small, peaceful world. Rows of green plants grew under the warm sun. An old man with a kind, wrinkled face was watering some tomato plants. He looked up and smiled at her. "Lost?" he asked. His voice was gentle, like the soil he was touching. "I think so," Ilara said, and to her surprise, a tear ran down her cheek. She felt lost not just in the city, but in her own life. The man put down his watering can. "Sometimes, getting lost is how we find a new path," he said. "My name is Arthur. Would you like a cup of tea?" Ilara nodded. For the first time in a long time, she did not think about what she should be doing. She simply sat on a wooden bench, in a quiet garden, with a man named Arthur, and waited for the tea. The silence was not empty. It was full of the smell of wet earth and growing things. It was a silence that started to heal. Ilara started visiting Arthur and the garden every day after work. She did not tell her colleagues where she was going. It was her secret, a small world of peace that belonged only to her. Arthur never asked about her job or her problems. Instead, he taught her about the garden. "Plants are very wise," he said one afternoon, giving her a small pot with a tiny green sprout. "They do not rush. They just take a little sun, a little water, and a little time. They know that growing is a slow and quiet business." Her first job was to take care of that one small plant. It was a basil plant. Arthur showed her how to touch the soil to see if it was dry, and how to give it water without giving it too much. Ilara, who managed big projects and million-dollar budgets, found that taking care of one small plant was very difficult. She was used to demanding results, to pushing for success. But a plant could not be pushed. One evening, she arrived at the garden feeling angry and stressed. A project at work had failed. Her boss was unhappy. She wanted to throw the little pot against the wall. Instead, she told Arthur about her feeling of failure. Arthur listened patiently. He then pointed to a flower with a slightly broken petal. "Do you see that flower?" he asked. "A bug ate a piece of it yesterday. It is not a perfect flower. But is it still beautiful?" Elara looked at the flower. Its color was a deep, beautiful purple. The morning sun was making it shine. Yes, she said. It is still beautiful. We are like these flowers, Arthur said softly. We get a little broken sometimes. We are not perfect. But that does not take away our beauty. Maybe, it even adds to it. It shows we have lived. This was a new idea for Elara. She had always believed that she had to be perfect to be valuable. The idea of finding beauty in imperfection was like a window opening in a dark room. She began to spend more time in silence, just sitting in the garden. She learned to pay attention to the small things, the journey of an ant on a leaf, the different shades of green, the feeling of the warm sun on her skin. This practice of paying attention without judgment was something Arthur called mindfulness. He explained it simply: you are not your thoughts. You are the sky, and the thoughts are just clouds passing by. You can watch them come and go. This helped her to not get lost in the storms in her mind. Slowly Elara started to bring some of the garden's peace into her life. She bought a small plant for her apartment. She started to eat her lunch without looking at her phone, just tasting the food. These were small changes, but they felt important. They were like the first roots growing from a tiny seed. One morning, Elara woke up before her alarm bell. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky with soft colors of orange and pink. Instead of reaching for her phone, she sat by her window and watched the city wake up. She felt a quiet feeling of thankfulness for the new day. This was another of Arthur's lessons. Gratitude. There is always something to be thankful for, he would say, even if it is just a good cup of tea or a warm pair of socks. Elara started a small journal, and every night before sleep, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. This practice changed the way she saw her world. She started to see her life not as a list of problems to solve, but as a collection of moments to experience. Her work was still demanding, but she learned to focus on what she could control and to accept what she could not. This Stoic idea, which Arthur explained as not letting your happiness depend on things outside of you, felt like finding a strong, calm center inside herself. Her relationship with herself also started to change. She had always been her own worst critic. The voice in her head was always telling her that she was not smart enough, not working hard enough. Remembering Arthur's words about the broken flower, she started to practice self-compassion. When she made a mistake at work, instead of punishing herself, she would say to herself, "It is okay. You are human. You are learning." Treating herself with the same kindness she would offer a friend was a revolutionary act. She learned that emotional healing was a process, much like gardening. Some days there was growth, and some days there were weeds. The process involved becoming aware of her feelings, acknowledging the pain without judgment, and allowing herself to feel it. There were days when she still felt sad or anxious, but now she did not run away from these feelings. She would sit with them, breathe, and trust that they would pass, like clouds in the sky. Her colleagues at work started to notice a change. She was calmer, she listened more, and she seemed more present. One day, a junior colleague, Mark, made a big mistake on a report. He came to Elara, terrified of being fired. The old Elara would have been angry and stressed. The new Elara took a deep breath. She remembered her own presentation failure. She felt empathy. "We can fix this," she told Mark kindly. "Let's look at it together. Mistakes are for learning, not for punishing." The relief on Mark's face was a mirror of the relief she was starting to feel in her own heart. Helping others was becoming an important part of her own healing. Elara realized that joy was not a big, loud prize to be won. It was a quiet, gentle thing that grew in the small moments of connection, gratitude, and acceptance. It grew in the kindness she showed herself and others. Months passed. The seasons in the community garden changed, and so did Elara. Her small basil plant was now a healthy, fragrant bush. Her apartment had more plants now, a small green family that she cared for every morning. The loud bells of her life were still there, but they no longer controlled her. They were just sounds, and she was the quiet listener. One afternoon, her old boss from the company she had left called her. He offered her a new, more important job with higher salary and a bigger title. A year ago, she would have accepted without thinking. It was the definition of success she had always followed. She thanked him for the offer and told him she would think about it. That evening, she went to the garden. She sat on her favorite bench next to Arthur, watching the sun set. She didn't say anything for a long time. "The world is always trying to tell you what a good life looks like," Arthur said, as if he could read her mind. "A bigger house, a faster car, a more important job. But a good life is not about having more. It's about being more. More present. More joyous. More peaceful." Elara looked at her hands. They had a little soil under the fingernails. She thought about her quiet mornings, her lunches away from her desk, the feeling of helping Mark instead of shouting at him. She thought about the simple joy of watching a seed grow into a plant. She knew her answer. The next day, she called her old boss and politely said no to the offer. It was not an easy decision, but it was her decision. It came from her new, quiet center. She chose her peace over other people's idea of success. She was the gardener of her own life now, and she was choosing to grow joy, not just a career. Her healing was not a final destination. It was a continuous process, a daily choice. It was choosing to be mindful, to be grateful, and to be compassionate. It was understanding that true strength was not in being perfect and unbreakable, but in being able to mend, to grow again, and to find beauty in the scars. That evening, Elara walked home from the garden. The city lights were bright, but tonight, she noticed a different light. It was the soft, silver light of the moon. She stopped on the busy street, looked up at the sky, and smiled. She was not lost anymore. She was home, inside herself. And it was a beautiful, peaceful place to be. My wish for you, dear listener, is that Elara's journey reminds you of your own quiet strength, the part of you that grows even in difficult seasons, that softens when given gentleness, that finds peace when offered time. May you remember that healing is not a race but a returning, a slow blooming. And may you always trust that within you lives a calm, steady garden, waiting to be tended with patience, kindness, and love.